The former president's constitutional court matter. I'm now joined by the executive secretary of the Council for the Advancement of the South African Constitution, Lawson Naidoo. Good afternoon to you, Lawson, and thank you so much for your time. What were the reasons for opposing the former head of state's appeal?
Well, there were no grounds for Mr. Zuma's appeal against that cost order that was made by the North Gauteng High Court when he sought to review and set aside the Public Protector's State of Capture report. The court at the time described his litigation as being recklessly founded and appropriately awarded a personal cost order against Mr. Zuma. And he filed no papers in the Constitutional Court. He treated the Constitutional Court with contempt, effectively, and it's therefore not surprising that the court has struck his appeal from the roll and added an additional cost order to Mr. Zuma.
For those that may not understand, Lawson, what exactly does this judgment mean for those that were opposing the appeal and the former head of state himself?
Well, it is estimated that the costs in this matter amount to some 10 million. That's excluding the costs that would be calculated following today's cost order. And what this judgment now means is that Mr. Zuma is now liable to pay those costs of the opposing parties. He's run out of runway in that regard. He's taken this all the way to the Constitutional Court, but did not file any arguments before the court and left the court with no option but to strike the matter from the roll. It's effectively a waste of the court's time.
We've seen the former president himself going back and forth with his legal matters, going back into court, appealing every judgment and decision that has been made against him because he has lost quite a number of cases. Is there any, because he's taken this to the highest court in the land, is there any space or any opportunity for him to appeal this judgment?
No, this is the end of the road. The Constitutional Court has struck the matter off the roll. It cannot be re-enrolled. And Mr. Zuma will have to face the consequences of that, which is, as I say, having to pay the cost of the opposing litigants in this matter.
He was in court yesterday, where his trial was expected, of course, to start. It's now going to be getting underway on the 29th of July, I believe. And, of course, he's pled not guilty as former President Jacob Zuma. What do you make of that?
Well, firstly, the trial has now commenced now that Mr. Zuma and the second accused, Thales, have entered formal pleas before the court, pleas of not guilty before the court. The matter is underway. The trial is underway, despite the fact that it's now been postponed for 2 months to the 19th of July to deal with what the Judge Kuhn described as a special plea by Mr. Zuma, where he's seeking to ask the court to strike the matter on the basis that Mr. Billy Downer, the chief state prosecutor, has no title to prosecute the matter. There is some debate as to what that means. Judge Kuhn himself said that there would need to be legal argument on the meaning of what constitutes title to prosecute, and that is a matter that will be ventilated in court on the 19th of July.
Now, with a case of this nature and of this magnitude, Lawson, how long can the South African public expect it to go on now that it has begun?
Well, it's still likely to go on for some time. So although, we have to deal, or the court has to dispose of this preliminary matter of the special plea, as I say, they'll hear argument in July, and Judge Kuhn made it very clear yesterday that he's very much on top of the issues. He studied the submission that's been made by Mr. Zuma's legal team, although there are inconsistencies and inaccuracies in that submission which have to be corrected. But he's very much on top of things, so one would assume that he would not need a very long period of time in order to announce a decision once he's heard the response and seen the responding papers from the National Prosecuting Authority. We know that the NPA have appointed a team of external counsel to assist them in responding to that application by Mr. Zuma. But once the trial itself gets underway and evidence starts to be led, this is a trial that could still take some time. We know that there is a provisional list of around 200 witnesses that the NPA has said that they might call. Whether they call all of them or not is yet to be seen, but it does indicate that the matter will take some time.
And just before I let you go, Lawson, I'd like to get your thoughts on the matter involving Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize and this Digital Vibes contract that was irregularly awarded to this organization. there's been calls, at least I had a chat with the UDM leader, Bantu Holomisa, earlier on, who's saying that the minister must go. What do you guys say as CASIC?
Well, I think, this is an incredibly serious matter involving an incredibly large sum of money. And we think that 150 million rands from the Department of Health's budget has been misappropriated in this way. In the midst of a pandemic, when we trying to find every rand and cent to protect our people against the pandemic, that this is unconscionable. And, Minister Mkhize has said that he has not personally benefited from these contracts. Well, that's not the point, with due respect to the minister. He must take political accountability for what has happened within the Department of Health, and he should step aside to acknowledge the gravity of what has taken place, and he must take political responsibility for that, as should other senior officials in the Department of Health.
All right, Lawson, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That is, of course, Lawson Naidoo, who is the General Secretary of CASIC.